My dad told me not to come to Mom's birthday. A few days later, my sister's boyfriend looked at me, turned pale, and said, "Hi, boss." That's when everything clicked. I learned early that being the quiet one in a loud family means you become invisible. You can scream in your own way, through effort, achievement, silence, but they never hear you. Not if they've already decided who you are. I was the oldest. My sister Natalie came along 3 years later and took all the air out of every room. Blonde, bubbly, effortlessly charming, and always, always the favorite. She was the one who got a standing ovation for getting a B in math. I got silence for graduating college early. They weren't cruel, not outwardly. They just treated my accomplishments like background noise. My dad was the kind of man who needed someone to compete with, even if it was his own kid. He respected loud confidence, not quiet competence. If I fixed something, he'd say I got lucky. If Natalie broke something, he'd laugh and fix it for her. Our mom was softer, but not better. She made excuses for him. For everyone. "You're just different," she used to tell me. "You've always been so independent," she'd explain. That was her way of justifying why I got less. Less attention, less support, less space. I moved out at 19. Not because I had some grand plan, but because I knew I wouldn't grow if I stayed. They thought I was being dramatic. My dad said I'd be back within a year. I never came back. I worked through college, full-time, double shifts. I taught myself to stretch $20 across a week. Learned what kind of canned soup lasted longest. I didn't complain. I just got through it. By 24, I'd saved enough to co-found a tech consultancy with 2 guys I met in a late-night coding forum. By 27, we bought them out. I didn't tell my parents. Not because I was hiding, but because I knew they wouldn't care. Every holiday, they'd ask if I was still working on that computer thing, and every time I visited, they'd steer the conversation toward Natalie. "She's dating someone new," my mom would gush. "He's very handsome. She thinks he might propose soon." She smiled. "She's finally thinking of getting her real estate license," Dad would add. "Good for her, right?" he said proudly. Meanwhile, I'd just signed a lease on a downtown office and hired my 10th employee. I didn't mention it. What was the point? Natalie had a different boyfriend every year, a new scheme every month. Fitness coaching, a podcast, handmade jewelry. Nothing stuck. But my parents applauded each one like she'd cured cancer. I never resented her for being loved. I just resented how invisible I had to be so she could shine. Still, I kept sending gifts, flowers on Mom's birthday, a bottle of my dad's favorite scotch for Father's Day. I was trying. Always trying. So when I heard Mom was turning 60 and they were throwing her a party, I figured it was finally time to show up. Really show up. I bought a gift weeks in advance, custom necklace, gold with her birthstone and initials of her children, had it engraved, reserved time off work, even ordered a floral arrangement to be delivered the morning of. I thought maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. 3 days before the party, I got a call from my dad. That was already odd. He wasn't the kind of man who made unnecessary phone calls. I paused for a second when I saw his name flash across the screen. I was in the middle of wrapping Mom's birthday gift, gold necklace, engraved just right. "Hey," I answered, putting the phone on speaker as I folded the tissue paper. "I need to talk to you about Sunday," he said, voice flat. "It's about your mother's party," he continued. "I know. I already sent flowers. I've got the gift ready too. I'll be there around 3, I said, trying to keep it casual. "Don't come," he interrupted. I stopped mid-fold, staring at the gift box in my hands. "Sorry," I asked, as if I hadn't heard right. "Don't come," he repeated, firmer now. "It's just not a good idea this year," he insisted. I let out a breath. Cold. Sharp. "Why?" I asked, trying to stay steady. "Did something happen?" I added. "It's not about something happening," he said. "It's about peace. Your mom doesn't need stress right now, he muttered. And I'm stress? I asked, each word stinging a little more than the last. You have a tendency to make everything about yourself, he said. It's her day. She deserves to enjoy it, he added. I wasn't going to make it about me, I replied quietly. I was just going to be there, I said. She doesn't need the tension, he shot back. You always act like we owe you something, he said. I clenched my jaw. I didn't ask for anything, I said. I bought a gift. I took time off work. I just thought. I started, then cut myself off. What was the point? It's better if you stay away, he said. You can call her if you want, send your little present. That's enough. He dismissed. Your little present? I repeated slowly, my voice barely above a whisper. It's just a party, he said. Don't make a big deal out of it, he added. I wanted to say something else, anything. But the silence on the line was already a verdict. He wasn't calling to discuss. He was calling to inform. Fine, I said. If that's what you want, I concluded. It is, he confirmed. Glad you understand. He finished. And then he hung up. I stood in the middle of my apartment, the open gift box in my hands, like I was holding something radioactive, a gesture that meant nothing to the people it was meant for. I didn't go to the party. I didn't call. I didn't even open social media that day, though I wanted to. Instead, I sat on my couch, watched some documentary I couldn't remember the name of afterward, and tried to pretend it didn't hurt. But the next morning, curiosity won. I opened Instagram and there it was, Natalie's story. Balloons, decorations, wine glasses clinking, Mom beaming at the center of a crowd of friends and family. Natalie's caption read, "Happy birthday to the most amazing mom ever. So lucky to celebrate you today." And then the last slide, Natalie smiling in a tight black dress, arm wrapped around a tall guy in a fitted suit. I recognized him. Couldn't place him at first, but something about the jawline, the stance. It was familiar. I tapped on his profile. Private. But his name was there. And it clicked. I'd seen it before, in a hiring email. I leaned back, scrolling through my inbox, and there it was, flagged from 2 months ago. His name, his resume. He was one of our junior hires, entry-level, back office. I stared at the screen for a full minute. That's when it hit me. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know the guy he'd just met at the party. The brother Natalie rolled her eyes about, the one their family didn't talk about, was also the one who signed his paycheck. And suddenly I wasn't angry. I was curious. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't message Natalie. Didn't out her boyfriend. I didn't even mention it to HR. I just waited. Watched. Observed. His name was Aaron. Fresh out of grad school. Smart on paper. He was hired as a junior analyst in one of our satellite teams. He wasn't part of my direct reports, but I signed off on every employee who came through the company, including him. At the birthday party, he'd probably heard all the usual things about me from Natalie. That I was cold. That I didn't talk to the family. That I moved away to chase money and didn't care about real connection. That I was difficult, selfish, distant. I could almost hear her voice say it. Laughing, casual, confident she was in the right. But what Aaron didn't know, what none of them ever seemed to realize, was that silence doesn't mean ignorance. That absence doesn't mean I'm not watching. I asked my assistant to flag any internal messages or meetings Aaron participated in over the next few weeks. Just observation. I told myself it was about protecting the company. But a part of me, a quiet, darker part, just wanted to see how far it would go. Turned out pretty far. Within 3 weeks, he was already pushing ideas way outside his role, suggesting new tools, questioning decisions in Slack threads, name-dropping his connections in vague ways that made people roll their eyes. One junior teammate flagged a message to his supervisor where he said, "Once I'm a little more established here, I think I can bring in some higher-level investors. My girlfriend's family has influence." I read that line 3 times. My girlfriend's family. The same family that pretended I didn't exist. He didn't even know he was bragging about the brother they tried to erase. It was almost funny. Almost. A few days later, I decided to stop by the main office. It wasn't unusual. I did this maybe twice a month. But this time, I asked to sit in on the strategy sync his team was holding. Just to listen in. I walked into the glass conference room 10 minutes early. Aaron was already there, setting up his laptop. He looked up at me, clearly not recognizing who I was. "Morning," he said casually. "Morning," I echoed, keeping my tone neutral. He smiled, polite, and looked back at his screen. The rest of the team filtered in. My assistant entered last and handed me a printout. Basic meeting agenda. Nothing unusual. I didn't even look at Aaron until his name came up in the opening discussion. His voice was confident, practiced. I could tell he was used to being praised for saying surface-level things in an important tone. And then it happened. He turned slightly toward me, gesturing toward one of the charts on the screen, and said, "We're hoping this aligns with broader leadership goals, right? Sorry, I didn't catch your name?" I looked at him for a second. His expression was neutral. Still didn't know. "My name's not important," I said. "Go on." I encouraged. He blinked, nodded, kept talking. I let the meeting finish. Nothing special. But right as people were standing up, laughing, packing laptops, I looked directly at Aaron and said, "You're Aaron, right?" "Yeah," he said, smiling, confused. "We haven't really met," he began. "I know," I cut in. "I approved your hire. Read your resume," I said calmly. He froze. "Oh," he said, eyes narrowing as the pieces clicked. "Yeah," I interrupted again. "I'm Natalie's brother," I stated. There was a beat of silence. Then, "Hi, boss," he muttered, voice cracking slightly. The room went still. I gave him the same smile he'd given me 20 minutes earlier. "Nice to meet you," I said lightly, then turned and walked out. I didn't need to say anything else. By that evening, I got a call from Natalie. "You showed up at his meeting?" she snapped. "Seriously?" "What the hell was that?" she demanded. "You didn't think it was worth telling him who I was?" I asked. "I didn't think it mattered," she said defensively. "It's not like you're in our lives," she added. "I own the company he works for," I said. "That's literally being in his life," I pointed out. "He felt ambushed," she said. "You embarrassed him," she accused. "He embarrassed himself," I replied. "I just stood there," I stated. "You're such a control freak," she hissed. "Is this your way of punishing us for not inviting you?" she snapped. "No," I said. "This is me not pretending anymore. You wanted me gone. I'm gone. But don't pretend I'm not here when it's convenient," I said calmly. She hung up. 2 days later, Aaron submitted a request to transfer to a different office. HR sent me the file. I approved it without comment. He never reached out. Neither did she. But 2 weeks after that, I got a text from my dad. "You had no right to pull a stunt like that," he wrote. "Keep your ego out of our family." I didn't reply, because in that moment, I understood something I hadn't before. They didn't want me to succeed. Not really. They wanted me quiet, distant, silent. And now that silence was over. 3 weeks after the office incident, I got invited to a corporate networking event hosted in one of our partner venues downtown. It wasn't mandatory, but I decided to go. Not out of obligation, more out of curiosity. It was neutral territory, formal, polished, no family drama. Or so I thought. I arrived early. The kind of early that lets you breathe before people start crowding the space. I checked in, grabbed a drink, and made the rounds. Smiles, nods, small talk. I knew how to navigate these rooms. These were my people now. Business owners, investors, industry veterans, no one cared what your sister thought of you. About halfway through the evening, I noticed her. Natalie. She walked in like she owned the place, hand looped through Aaron's arm. She wore a red dress and that expression she always saved for moments where she knew people were watching. Confident, glowing, untouchable. He saw me first. His eyes locked on mine from across the room, and I saw it. The shift. Recognition. Dread. Then something colder. Like he was hoping I wouldn't say anything. Hoping I'd pretend. Natalie hadn't noticed me yet. They made their way over to a group near the bar, laughing, shaking hands. I sipped my drink and waited. 10 minutes later, we ended up side by side. Not planned, just the current of the event bringing us together. She finally looked up and saw me. Her smile faltered. "You," she said. "Didn't know you'd be here," she added stiffly. "Neither did I replied calmly. Aaron stood behind her, looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "You remember Aaron," she said with forced cheer. "We're, here as guests, business contacts of the Harper firm," she explained. "Of course," I said, nodding to him. "How's the transition going? Settling into the new team?" I asked casually. He cleared his throat. "Yeah, it's been good, lots to learn," he said carefully. "I'm sure," I replied, not looking away. Natalie narrowed her eyes. "What is this?" she asked. "Some kind of intimidation thing? You trying to make him uncomfortable?" she snapped. "Not at all," I said. "You brought him into my world. I'm just being a good host," I replied. "You're unbelievable," she muttered. I leaned in slightly, voice low. "You're the one who told him I was a deadbeat, right?" I asked. "That I walked away from family? Didn't mention I was CEO?" I pressed. "He didn't need to know," she said, voice tight. "But now he does," I said. "And so do all these people," I added. Her eyes flicked around the room. A few guests had started glancing our way. "You're always making everything about you," she hissed. "Even when Mom's party had nothing to do with you, you just couldn't let it go," she accused. "I didn't go," I said. "You made sure of that. And still, here you are, walking into my space like it's yours," I said evenly. "You think you're better than us," she snapped. "Just because you have money? A title?" she challenged. "No," I said. "I think I finally see who I am without needing your approval," I stated. "You're not part of this family anymore," she said, voice shaking. "I was never really allowed to be," I replied. For a long second we just stood there, the tension between us like wire pulled tight. Then Aaron spoke up. Quiet, but clear. "I didn't know who you were," he said to me. "If I had, I wouldn't have said half the things I did," he admitted. I nodded once. "That's the thing," I said. "People always assume the version of me they're told. They rarely bother to ask," I replied. Natalie turned to him sharply. "Don't apologize to him," she said. "He's manipulating this entire moment. Can't you see that?" she snapped. He didn't respond. I looked around the room, the lights bouncing off glassware, muted music in the background, and realized something strange. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Not even bitter. I just felt done. "You can tell Mom I said happy birthday," I said, turning to go. "You won't have to worry about running into me again," I said softly. Natalie said nothing. Aaron just watched me walk away. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I'd lost something. I felt like I'd just won. It's been 5 months since the event. 5 months since I walked away from my sister and her carefully constructed illusions. Since then, everything's been quieter. Not silent, just calmer. More intentional. My phone doesn't buzz with family updates anymore. I don't get forwarded photos of Natalie's brunches or my mom's Sunday roasts, No group texts I was only half included in to begin with. The absence didn't feel like loss. It felt like air. I still run the company. Business is good? Better, actually. Without the emotional weight pressing on me, I've been sharper, clearer. I started waking up earlier, working less, living more, hired a few new people, let go of a few who didn't fit, set better boundaries, and I didn't think about them much until last week. I got an email. No subject line, just an attachment and a few words. "Thought you should see this," the message said. From Mom. The file was a photo. My mom's kitchen table, a birthday card sitting on it. Open. Inside, in Natalie's handwriting, I could make out the words, "Don't worry about him. He'll come around. He always does." I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't reply. The next day, a letter showed up, handwritten, from my dad. He talked about legacy, about how family meant forgiveness, about how pride should never get in the way of blood. He never mentioned the party, or the years of silence. Just 5 paragraphs of carefully chosen words designed to pull me back into the current. I folded it, slipped it into a drawer. Not to keep, just to not destroy. Not yet. The truth is, they didn't want a relationship. They wanted the version of me they could control. And that version doesn't exist anymore. Some nights, I think about the boy I used to be. The one who saved his allowance to buy a birthday gift no one remembered. The one who waited at the top of the stairs to be noticed. The one who mistook survival for love. He deserved better. So I give him better now. I started writing again. Just for me. I booked a solo trip up north, cabin in the woods, no cell signal. I read. I hiked. I slept with the windows open. No voices in my head telling me I'm not enough. When I came back, I cleaned my place top to bottom. Bought a new couch. A real one this time, not the cheap thing I'd kept for 10 years just to prove I didn't need comfort. I lit candles, played music, poured a glass of wine, and I felt full. Not because I'd won some invisible argument, not because I had the last word, but because I finally stopped needing one. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is peace.